First one back there gets all the paychecks.
I'm closest.
Welcome to the Tuesday, June 17th, regular city council meeting. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Weir.
Yes.
Smock.
Here.
Clements.
Here.
DeWater. Morris.
Yes.
I'll take a motion for approval of the June 17th agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Number 5 is public comment. If you'd like to make a comment to council and myself, please come up to the podium.
Hi, Richard. Good evening.
Good
Rich
evening.
Kurtenbach, Blackhawk County Board of Supervisor. I get to actually come and say, hey, I got a new role. But I'm making rounds to the different city councils now. Been elected in office. And tonight, kind of informing folks, next Wednesday and Thursday, or next Tuesday and Wednesday, one of the things in, one of my goals in running for office was getting information out on some of the services that the county provides. And one of the big ones was, how is my property values assessed? What changes? What's that governed under? So what we did with TJ Koingsfeld and myself, will be doing a presentation next Wednesday in Waterloo at 5:30, and Cedar Falls on Wednesday evening, both starting at 5:30. And we're going to go through, I'm actually using my home's value over the last 20 years to look at the assessed values and what it's changed over the 20 years. And then TJ is going to go into details on how we are governed, how he is governed, how in doing that job, in that role. We're going to go over if you feel that your property values are too high, how you actually go through that process to challenge it or question that and take that back to the board of review. And the big thing is on the backside of there, we're going to be talking about the exemptions. We've always had the homestead exemption, and then there was a disabled veterans exemption. And a couple years ago, the state legislature invoked one that now is another exemption for people 65 and older, homeowners can file for. And there's one for military, those that have been honorably discharged through the military. So we're going to be talking about that as well. But a lot of people ask, they think that either the Board of Supervisors or somebody just making these numbers up. There is actually a very defined criteria how this all happens. And if you notice a big change in your property valuation, you might want to look and see how many homes were sold in your neighborhood in the last couple of years. That is really the driving force that's going on right now and happening with stuff. But TJ is going to go into more detail on that. So I got more flyers. If you want to leave some and leave some posted here at City Hall, it'd be great. We are asking RSVP on it. The rooms are limited to 50 people. It's not a problem at this point. We know there'll probably be some people walking in anyways. But this is just the first. There's 4 steps in the whole process when you look at property taxes and valuations. So this is our first step in trying to get that information and education out to folks. So any questions I can help with, please let me know. And otherwise, if you know anybody that's got any interest in it, pass the information along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Supervisor Kurtenbach. Anyone else this evening? Number 6 is approval. I'll take a motion for approval of the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7 is approval of the resolution calendar. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Weir.
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
DeWater.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Number 8, appointments for the library board terms. These are as amended. They're supposed to be, I think, at 3 and 2. And just by several different people handling that task at City Hall. It just kind of got lost in the shuffle. So we're just amending the term and need dates. Just take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This evening, we had put that out there that we were going to do a bid opening and request to accept the high bid for Building 1 and for Building 2, 952 Gilbertville Road. We did receive 3 bids here, and I'd like to go ahead and open them. One of them, I'm not real sure what it's for. So,
So you got a bid for each one of them from 2 different people?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. This bid here is, that I'm opening is, first one we received actually, is from Jack Schlenwin. The amount he bid for, and this is for building number 2, the amount he bid is $1,560. However, we did not receive a $1,000 cash deposit on that one.
Can I address the board?
Not at this time. We did receive another bid here, and this also, this is from Mr. Miller, Randy Miller in New Hampton. He's actually bid $5,100 on Building 2. He didn't give a cash deposit either, so I'm assuming that they thought once they signed the paperwork, maybe,
And actually, that's kind of how I thought it.
that once they signed the paperwork.
I was just
Okay.
gonna ask, I was like, did we require that up front? I don't recall.
Locks them in.
It just says, the buyer must supply a $1,000 cash deposit to be refunded upon the successful completion of the project. And this bid actually is for Building 2 as well. And this also, like I said, is for Building 2. This is Scott Phillips of Iona, Iowa, and he had bid $3,600. We did not receive any bids on Building number 1, so I would suggest to council that they would make a motion to approve the bid from Randy Miller from New Hampton, Iowa, in the amount of $5,100.
I make the motion to approve, or to accept the $5,100 bid from Randy Miller
Okay?
on
Second.
Building 2.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Now, was that the smaller one?
That's the larger one.
That's, yeah.
All 3 were for the larger one.
Yeah, and no bids for the smaller one.
No,
That's the one I thought was most desirable.
yeah, because that one was just built 5 years ago, 2020 it was
Yeah.
built. Yeah,
Could we use it somewhere else on city property?
that may be something that we discuss. I did actually have
I don't
that,
think it's out of the question, really.
I did have on the agenda, number 11's council to consider the next steps for 952 Gilbertville Road. There's a couple things that we have discussed in the past. You know, one of them is to do maybe a controlled fire, you know, more so for the home. And then, you know, we had talked about different options, what we may do with the sheds, or if someone did make a bid on them.
Mayor, I do believe you have a motion and second, though, open. I don't think we've closed out the bid for building number 2 yet. Is that correct?
We just did it for 2.
Do you want a roll call or an
Yeah, I don't believe we
We-
have
We
voted.
didn't have a vote.
You just have a motion and a second on the floor.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, thank you.
I thought I did that.
I thought you did too.
Okay.
I get the
Moving on,
benefit of
I'm sorry.
cheating off of Misty
We-
here.
We did skip number 9 because there was no
Yep.
high bid, there was no bid
Correct.
at all for the bid opening for number 1, building number 1. Number 11, moving on. Council to consider the next steps for 952 Gilbert Road. And I'd heard a lot of ideas out there in the last couple weeks, the last month that we've been discussing this. So I know that Justin, if you want to speak to it all, he's still checking with the DNR. I talked to Dick today, and there was some other ideas that he had. And then, who else said something about, did you say something about Warloo too, or?
Well, the hazmat center, as far as training, we're all concerned about training. That's a nice,
Yeah.
safe way to do it. I don't know what it costs, but, so I was, talking to my son, he's a captain with the, Des Moines Fire Department. And, I asked him, I said, well, burning down buildings, have you ever heard of such a thing? He said, yeah, we used to do it all the time. Well, I said, well, that's not what I wanted to hear.
We know.
But they don't anymore. And so he was just suggesting, which I'm sure you've probably explored, to just use the building without a fire for practice. Chopping holes in the roof, kicking down doors, or putting up drywall in a room and setting that on fire, you know, a controlled burn.
We've done small ones with like hay bales,
Yeah,
to
oh,
where
yeah.
it's very limited. We go in
Yeah.
and it's an immediate extinguishment, but it's not a full structural. That's typically how even the full evolutions will start, so you can get multiple evolutions out of it. But then, yeah, forcible entry, training, rescue training. We've even brought in like smoke machines, you know, to try to get it. That's where the hay and stuff comes off, especially if it's a little wet. Just puts off a white smoke rather than a heavy toxic smoke, just like
Yeah.
crazy. So, yes, those are all there as well. Turn it back over to you in just a sec, Dick. I've been back and forth with the DNR. Unfortunately, playing whose job is it anyways? So, Jason and Mason are the two that I'm down to, and now I'm back to Jason. So I don't have anything definitive yet as far as how much is it? Is it $100? Is it $1,000? So, I don't
Well,
have anything quite yet.
He had checked with somebody in the department who handles a lot of the regulations. He didn't think that the DNR thing was a problem at all,
Okay.
that was almost a rubber stamp. So I can't count on them for reinforcement.
Gee, Dick, are you getting an idea that maybe your
But I'll
idea?
tell you, he did send me a link, and I can forward this, from a magazine called Firehouse.
Yep, we get it.
Yeah, a big article in there, I don't know how old it was, about an assistant fire chief who's charged with manslaughter. So there is liability.
Oh, yeah.
And
Wow.
if we were to have other departments come in and somebody got hurt, giant liability. So there's a lot to think about on that.
Yep. There's NFPA, which is the federal standard, so think of it kind of like building code, but for how firefighting and the operations and the equipment and the training and everything has to happen. There is a specific section in there just for live fire training drills. Because again, it's, you have to train as you fight, so it's about as real as you get, because I mean, it is a house, but just like anything of any type of training, there's a level of danger to it. You know, anything that, you know, police officers do for training, a level of what firefighting can do, you know, military personnel, kind of the same type of avenue, there's always an inherent risk. So yes, I will absolutely not sugarcoat any of that. That is 100% true. The NFPA regulations does state just the level of equipment you're supposed to have. You have to have a dedicated EMS unit. So one of our EMS units will be taken out of service for that day. So we're down to one ambulance for the day. Shouldn't be a problem, but it's absolutely the transparent truth. Dedicated pumpers. So we typically work with adjacent communities like Raymond and Gilbertville, who we also invite, but their pumpers are now staged as a first out, even for Evansdale, because you have to have so many trucks dedicated to make sure you can contain the fire. Certified people. So you're actually supposed to have some level of, whether it's a department type trainer or instructor or nationally certified type trainers. Last I knew, we have 2 certified nationally on the department. So we meet those types of things, but all of those things have to be checked off that helps that liability. Because again, you're out doing a live drill that is in a way very similar to what it would be if it was a true house fire, and those are inherently dangerous, so, yep, it's all valid.
So, I mean, there all are, in my mind anyway, alternatives to having a giant fire out there. And then we've got that toxic shit to clean up when they're done.
And Dick also asked that, that we also check in to see what it would be to do a demo.
To tear it down.
That would be
Yeah.
a good thing to have
Absolutely.
a bid,
Yeah.
you know, from somebody on what it would cost to just
Right.
properly and responsibly level it, essentially.
Because, yeah, that's where I was at with it, is I honestly, it's been so long since we've done one, I don't even know what the cost is. Some of the testing you have to have done regardless, the asbestos and those kinds of things. So that one is not a deterrent either way, it has to be done. But, yeah, what's the rest? You know, is there any type of additional costing that we have there?
There may be also, we had discussed also asbestos checking. And then if it was checked, then it would have to be abated. Either way, whatever
Regardless.
we decide
Yeah.
to do.
That has to be
What,
done.
They're gonna have to
I
do
saw-
demo and removal, you know, so we're gonna need to get some companies lined up
Right,
no matter what.
right.
Well, I saw something on one of those things that I was reading from DNR or whoever, but something about lead paint being removed, and I doubt it.
I haven't had any of that,
I,
at least not recently.
yeah, I doubt it. I mean, not that lead paint isn't an issue. I'm a registered lead inspector, so it's
Sure.
kind of one of my deals, but I've never heard of in demo or anything. It happened to be,
But what if it was a burn,
Yeah, abated.
any kind of a burn?
As far as the toxins go, if you're burning that, there's way worse things in there that you'd have to worry about besides
Okay.
lead. So, you're
Like
not wrong, it's
like
still
shea
not great,
carpet?
but yeah, there's way more, I can't remember the name of them off, it's not microchemicals, but it's all the plastics and the polys and all that, yeah, that's gonna be way worse.
Well, I think we all have homework to do, so we'll be considering then.
Yeah, I'll keep you up to date.
At the meetings to come, we'll be discussing our next steps.
Yep, I just did put in a few calls, it'd been a little weak. I did just hear from the first person, Mason with the DNR, who has notified Jason, so I don't have to track him down, but he's supposed to call me, so. I went to the state sent me to the regional guy changed positions. So then I called the other guy and he goes, nope, you wanna still talk to the original guy? So I was like, okay. I was like, whatever you can do to help me get in touch with him, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Moving on, council to consider the sale of city property located on Evansdale Drive near Highway Retention Pond. Actually, it was a different conversation today, but Chris brought up that Travis Davenport, who owns kind of like the top part of that retention pond, it's actually in his name, that the DNR, he mentioned to me that he was doing some digging or whatever, and he said the last time that happened, that the DNR said, you know, we designed this a specific way. So I don't know, I think we need to do some further checking on that before we get into the possibility of selling it. And you saw in your packets that it's, you know, it's just a small wedge.
yeah.
So it wasn't even, I'm not real sure, you know, if that's something you guys even want to entertain. Let's start
Well-
there.
You know, it allows access to the fishermen there. That's the only positive thing, I guess.
Well, and I
With
told
us
them
on
that
it.
they would have access anyway to that area, because it's public. You know,
No,
the area that they were interested in buying is city-owned.
Yeah, I know, but then it wouldn't be public.
I said they have access right now because it's city property.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, it's not buildable, is it?
No,
So
floodplain.
They-
it'd have to be
their lot
a
goes-
person next
yeah.
to it that wants to buy it.
Their lot goes all the way to the end of that area.
Yeah, it's probably, their lot's probably only 50 foot wide, but it's 600 foot long.
It is like 600 feet, 600 yards or something like that. Yeah, it is.
Downstairs.
It was just something they're considering, but I think that we should probably get a hold of somebody with the DNR first on this retention pond thing, because not that they're, they're not getting any of the retention pond, they're just getting, like, having a piece of the shoreline. But then what if, down the road, there wanted to be some, I don't know, change of that, they're doing some changes, like, the other resident that owns that other piece. So,
If Justin's chasing a DNR representative, giving this to, and,
well, that's actually Iowa DOT,
oh, really?
because they originally put the retention pond in
Yeah.
as part of the 380 interstate project. So, I think that should be a call that we make before we go any further with this. So I would like a motion to table, please.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 13, request to correct inspection deficiencies found on the 2025 annual fire sprinkler inspection with Blackhawk sprinklers in the amount of $1,800, which they'd carried over the quote to do in the new fiscal year. It's not something that was budgeted, it's just something that hasn't been done. It pretty much seems like 20 years since the building was new.
Other than basic maintenance and just making sure it stays running, yeah, I can't say
Right.
if anything's been done to it.
Yeah, they do an inspection every year, which I didn't even realize, but, it's just kind of like hey, it's 20 years out, we need to do more of an extension, more of an inspection and they were gonna add one of the heads in the shower area. So. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 14 is request to approve yard waste agreement with City of Raymond through June 30th of 2027. It's a 2-year agreement.
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 15, request to approve yard waste agreement with City of Elkhorn Heights through June 30th of 2027.
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's a slight amendment on this one, request to sign a 2-year agreement with the City of Elkhorn Heights for animal control service. It is a 2-year agreement, but there's some items in there that need to be updated, so we would be approving it as amended. Take a
And what-
motion to approve.
Do we have the amended copy here, or?
Sandy just pointed it out at 6:15. So where it says 48 calls, should be 96. And what was the other thing, Sandy? And did you give
the
a
wording-
copy of it to
No.
Misty?
I'll do it after the meeting.
Okay.
On page 2, where it talks about that 2-year time period, it says if Evansdale exceeds 48 calls in this 12-month period, should be 24-month period.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. So take a motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 17, request from Fire Chief to purchase Canon copier in the amount of $2,250 from Gordon Flesh and enter into image care agreement in the amount of $52.48 per month, and I will have Justin speak on this one.
Yeah, I can make this short and sweet. The fire department doesn't need anything fancy, and that is coming from, I checked with both probably our 2 biggest users, the chief and then our full-time paramedic. The unit that is there, I think, has been there since the building. It seems like it has never been replaced, and it's just old. Can't get parts for it anymore or anything. And we're still paying on it at, I believe, a higher rate than even what the new contract would. However, we don't need a high-end unit. So basically the cost, taking the 2,250 out of it for the upfront and just going to $600 a year, we can put in a new model every year for $600. So if we really worry about just getting a more, still a business line, but more of the small business, you know, we go to Staples, get a little bit bigger unit, but Mayor and I just kind of went through some quick pricing yesterday. We can actually add color. We're of course paying for our own supplies, which is where part of that $600 comes from. But $600 does buy a lot of supplies when we don't print an absolute ton. So I would think we'd get more than a year out of toner, even color toner. We would still limit it. We wouldn't let, you know, people just go hog wild printing color everywhere. But I think that unit was $380. And we looked at toner costs and it was $100 or less for each toner cartridge. So even if you refilled it once a year, that's only $400. So my move, and I appreciate the quote stuff coming because that's who's got it now and what they would replace it with, because we've been having problems with the unit. I don't foresee the need to spend this much, is my personal opinion as council.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Since it is on there as an item to approve, I will go ahead and request a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and this is the part, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't think it was supposed to go down that way.
I was gonna say,
You-
did
you
we get
have
the
to-
understand?
Backwards?
Well,
So you were just approving the Gordon Flesh $2,200 copier plus the $600 a year?
Thought we were approving your,
Yes, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So retract the motion. Who had the motion?
D-Water.
Yeah,
okay.
Dick, would you retract, are you okay with retracting your motion to purchase the Gordon Flesh $2,200 copier? That's what
yeah, I
just,
thought
that's what just got approved.
right, with the 52.48 per month.
Correct.
We were gonna go a different route, and I should have probably just spelled it out that way, how I'd like
I
to,
can withdraw my motion.
would you mind?
Yep. Sorry, that's where it was at, I was stating that we don't need to spend that much, even as the department. We can
Even
get it.
2,200?
No, I'm talking $400 for a copier. That's
Oh.
all they need. So, and then Adam, as your second.
I
to
will withdraw my second.
Just so we have it formal, sorry, guys.
So we're actually gonna do a motion to approve moving forward with getting a copier that the city would purchase instead of have an agreement with. Is that correct?
So I believe what we would have to do here, Mayor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is you would ask for the motion, but this would need to fail.
Right,
due
that's
to
what
the
I was
lack
trying
of
to
a
get at.
motion.
Okay,
So,
that's what I was trying to get at, but nobody went along with
and
me,
then as
so.
far as what we need to do, since the copier price is so much less, it is under the normal spending limit.
Right.
That the chief can just go buy. So he won't necessarily need council's approval up front. He can just add it in as office supplies or whatever line item he chooses. So, sorry.
Can I make a motion to,
You don't even need to make a motion, it
Okay.
could just fail to lack of motion.
okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Bada boom.
Number 17 failed to lack a motion.
Dang, Robert's Rules of Order.
I was trying to get that to happen, but
Yep.
I should have, without leading people, that's not my job. I mean, to
Well,
lead on,
I mean, the $2,200 thing looked pretty reasonable to
It
me
is,
for
and I
a
just
commercial,
recently had to do it myself, so.
commercial printer.
yeah.
And if it was something higher volume, if it was something for City Hall, I believe PD still has a need for higher volume print and stuff. Fire really doesn't. We just need something we can copy with so that we can scan in any reports and things that we have, and then we need the ability to print on occasion. We would love to be able to add the color option. This is still not color. I can put in a color one for a fraction of the cost. All the expenses and the service and stuff is on us, but again, $600 a year, can buy a new one every year. Just, we don't have the need for the volume or the features or anything extra. It just needs to be a basic laser printer.
Yeah. You can't argue with that.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm good with saving the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all are good with saving the money.
So I can take a couple $1,000s.
I don't know,
from
Justin.
the
I'd have to
budget.
think about that one.
Moving on, 18 is request to complete stormwater repairs with Frickson Brothers Excavating in an amount not to exceed 25,000. This was previously approved verbally by council. I'll take a motion to approve it.
Motion
the
to
agenda.
approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You do have two quotes in front of you. Justin and I were talking about it yesterday afternoon, and he had suggested just, we reached out to another company. We do have our current system, all of our cell phones with Verizon. We would like to upgrade the city phone system to a digital system with Verizon, with a monthly fee of $20 per line. Our anticipated savings of $373 per month. So initially, when we started this conversation, our representative with Verizon, it started out with, they actually brought up the One Talk. We couldn't do anything with our previous internet provider because our service was not consistent enough, and we depend on our phones. One of the neat things about this Verizon is they are, even though they're desk phones, they're Androids. They're Android phones. So in the event the service would go down, our fiber would go down, then it would pick up the US cellular signal, so we wouldn't be down. We had an incident today. Actually, we've had a lot of issues with our phones, our analog lines. I'd be happy to show them to you after the meeting. It's pretty scary back there. They're over 55 years old. So it's just, people are going digital. It is time to update. As I'm talking to her and she's going to bat for us, it says here on the quote, it was gonna be $62.40 total cost over a 12-month period. And then, I got a letter, one-time, equipment offer, like you have a copy of it as well, that there's no charge for the phones. So that's a huge bonus, because that was gonna be around $6,240. And as you can see on the second quote with Ring Central, he did offer me a good monthly fee of $19.50. But regardless, we'd have to pay $97 a piece for the phones. I know that they're a good service as well. And both companies, neither companies charge for porting the service. So,
Remind me how many phones we're talking about?
24.
She's got 26 listed, so we'll just need to shore up that
Well,
count.
okay, that's a little complicated. There is a dispatch phone when you go into the foyer. I'm not real sure we're gonna replace that one or not, but I did initially have it in the total cost.
Okay.
So, but with that company, the phones are free anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's 24 or 26. But I would sure like to move forward with this. Like I've said, we've had a lot of problems with our phone lines. Line 1 right now, which is a rollover line, is completely down. It started acting out yesterday with just regular static. You couldn't understand anything the person said. We would take their number down, try to get a point across to them, that we call them back on line 2, because it is a rollover. Today, it just 2 rings and it dropped the call. So then we didn't even have the opportunity for it to roll over. And I called in to see what was really going on. It just rang twice and dropped. So we do have a technician coming out tomorrow afternoon. Right now, we are working on a cell phone. CenturyLink was able to port our line, or forward our line, I should say, over to the cell phone. So we'd have something, and we could build a maintain business.
So just to be clear.
Yeah.
We would have zero due immediately with Verizon.
That is correct.
And just pay $520 per month for
Yep.
all of our city phones.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's actually even more benefit to it as well. Certainly happy to wait for any questions, or I can also jump in, because I dug into this heavy today, just so we had
for
information
it.
for tonight, so. I'm for the Verizon deal, so I think everything, my company also does voice over IP. We work with RingCentral, we work with Microsoft, several players. The $20 a month to $25 a month is really the range of kind of a per phone or per user a month. So not a huge sales advantage from any of the players. They're all very similar. So we're good there. That's why I did ask, let's at least get a RingCentral quote.
Yeah.
I can tell you what Teams is gonna be. It's gonna be right there with it as well. So no savings really there as far as a clear advantage. Because it's a cellular provider, the uniqueness of having failover to the cellular network out of the phones is a huge advantage, because that is the one thing of any time we deal with any client is, hey, if we're moving your phones over and you only have one internet provider, just understand if that has problems, your phones are down. You can still forward them to a cell phone or do other things, but just understand your phones are down. So that's typically where a second internet provider or other things come in to help avoid that for businesses. The LTE would cover that. So just like calling on Verizon's cell phone today, that's what it would do. So that was a benefit that nobody else that I've ever worked with has been able to offer, to my knowledge. Then the phones throw in, sometimes RingCentral will throw in phones, but I think they gave you a cheaper price up front, which is why the phones weren't free. They're normally $200-300, so they did discount them, but they weren't free. So that was a nice advantage with Verizon as well. The equipment was free. The other item was Verizon came in and had some additional credit that was $50 credit per phone that we put in. So there was an estimated additional bill credit right up front of $1,300. I know no other provider, including us, RingCentral, anybody that could throw in an extra $1,300. So there's an additional bill credit savings, basically saying a little over 2 months of free service, more or less. Is basically how that's gonna pan out. The moving it, they'll all of them, including Verizon, RingCentral, piece of cake, we'll move it, we'll port it for you, everything. But there's several things behind the scenes that still have to happen with the setup of, well, what do you want to have happen when your phone line rings? Do you want it just to ring the mayor every day and she has to transfer it? Do you want it to ring 5 different phones? How do you want to be able to transfer? They have things called call flows and hunt groups and all these other things. That's where people employ companies, where my team comes in to do that. I can tell you right now, we probably wouldn't be able to do it for less than $3,000. I asked Verizon, I asked a couple of the others, they included it. So that setup piece and anything, so additionally, I could give you a formal bid, but as I told the mayor, I'm not going to, because I'm not gonna waste my team's time, because I know we can't beat that. We're gonna be at least $3,000 more. So I wanted to make sure we had kind of apples to apples. We had a few different competitors. The difference, and that's kind of the summary that I've got, is the monthly rate is gonna be the same once it's probably all said and done across multiple providers. So there's not one that's really gonna set you apart on the monthly rate. The LTE backup is a big advantage to have, where you don't need a second internet provider. Verizon is also giving free equipment. That helped, to where, at least some. And then they were additionally giving you a bill credit of close, it was $50 a phone. So whether we have 24 phones or 26, that'll vary a little bit, depending on what our final count is, but that's $1,200 to $1,300. I don't have another competitor that I could go with that's going to do that, and then still also include everything with the setup and the planning and things up front. So that's where I landed with the Verizon's a good deal. It's a reputable service, and if they can do everything they say, great. The other thing is, not that you want to do this every year. I pushed her hard. With government, there is no contract.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable, really.
RingCentral is a 3-year contract. Anything that we would do would be a 3-year agreement. The deal is you don't want to go through the mess of changing it even every 3 years, because it's a pain in the butt. It will be a little stressful for a couple days as everything gets moved. Nobody, it can just make it seem, it's just telephones. But there's no contract, so we're not stuck. That's huge.
They're really just throwing it all in for us. And we've been with them since 2020, we switched over to Verizon. They also, just so you know, They also just gave us, a better price on all of our cell phones. They just dropped every single, phone charge on our regular monthly bill by $3. You might not think that's a lot, but $3 with all the cell phones, we have 10, I think. $3 per, give or take one or two, over a year's time, you know, that adds up. It's something.
Yeah.
You know, they want, especially working with government entities, they're really wanting to be competitive out in the market.
I guess I will share on that same point as far as pricing. Typically, you don't ever see things go down. I did ask her and said, okay, we're not in any contract or agreement, that's great. That also doesn't lock us into a price. So now you can just up my price again, just because. And, you know, okay, we don't like it, fine, we'll go somewhere else, but again, then you're spending money to move somewhere else. I said, when's the last time this plan had a price increase? She goes, I couldn't tell you. She goes, actually, it just decreased at the beginning of this year from $25 to $20. So again, not a guarantee, it wasn't anything I could get in writing, but it does not sound like the government side of this had a history of going up, and in fact, they dropped it from 25 to 20. So that was a risk that I had identified of why I don't have a price lock. It sounds like it's been pretty consistently in that area.
Right now, just so you all know, our last phone bill was $913. We just paid it today. Yeah, it was on the rest bills for today.
So what would your new bill be with the, if we went with the Verizon?
$520. And like Justin said, I'll reiterate, they're giving us also a $1,300 bill credit, depending what the total count of the phones is, 50 a phone. So our first couple months will be free. Yeah, can't. We've been paying a lot. We were with Windstream for years, and they dropped us, which I could say amen to that, because they were a horrible provider. And you would just get anxious to even have to call them about anything. So we were kind of forced to move. So CenturyLink was one of the companies that we looked into, some others in the area as well. But we've been paying a lot for, you know, every long distance call. I make long distance calls every single day. You know, I don't choose to use my cell phone. I could. I do sometimes.
This will also add feature sets
Yeah.
that they've been wanting ever since that it was supposed to work. I don't know if it ever did or reliably did. They'll be able to transfer in between buildings, just like you're sitting next to each other. So no more of, well, you'll have to call the PD or any of that. You can announce it. You can, hey, Steph, I've got somebody. Can you talk to them? Yep, send them over, and just hand it
That'll
right
be
over.
nice.
So that's a default of
That's
every
huge.
system anymore now. But that is something we don't have.
Another thing we don't have on our current phones is if the police department were to take a call and say they wanted to record it, they don't have that capability, and they will. I think that's huge. Do you have that capability now? This will be a capability you'll have going into the future. So,
And this is very common. We see this very often, that the old style analog, or they actually are kind of a pseudo digital system, but it's not the hosted internet based. Just, I mean, half the cost. We flip clients all the time and still get savings. So the $900 bill is not shocking to realize we should only be paying $500 or $600.
it's gonna be a nice savings going forward. I'll take a motion to approve.
I can make that motion with Verizon as being the selected vendor.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 20, request to purchase Arlo camera in the amount of $99.99. This is going to be for the Yardway Center. This is going to increase our security down there, and it's also LPR, license plate reader. There will be a monthly charge with that, though. She did quote $39.99, but I think since they just give us a reduced pricing, I think it's probably going to be $36.99. Because that would go on our regular Verizon bill. It's gonna be solar powered, because Mid-America wanted about 11 grand. to take electricity to our yard waste center. Simply move it across the street. So we had to look at a different option. You can get a lot of monthly charges for $11,000.
And Mayor, I know the camera's at a discount or for that $100. Did that have the solar panel with it? That was the only thing I couldn't clarify.
I don't think so, but they're relatively inexpensive.
Couple
aren't they?
$100, yeah.
Okay.
And you just buy those retail. It isn't a subscription or anything you need for
Okay.
that. And I think Best Buy carries them, so.
Yeah.
it's-
So anybody with the code can monitor that camera?
Yep.
It's logins to Arlo, so it is a consumer grade style system, but this camera has cellular built in, which is why you need the service. It'll be, it's 4K and all the additional features, the license plate reader piece in it, which is new in this one then. I hadn't seen they'd brought it in. But, waterproof, the big battery in them, the solar panel helps kind of supplement that to keep them charged. It is not a 24/7 recording camera. It would only be able to record on motion and record that time frame, just simply because of the power requirement. If you're not plugged into AC, there's no way that battery can just record constantly
Where's it record?
to the cloud. That was
Okay.
just, yep. Good question, is right into the cloud. It's an Arlo account, so you would log in, and if push comes to shove that we need more than City Hall or the street department monitoring, the police department could have their own login and things, all on the same account, no extra cost or whatnot. It also goes to an app on your phone, like everything else. So if you get notifications, and we want to keep Chris up 24/7, and he gets alerts every time somebody comes in there in the middle of the night, we could do that. He looks
No
thrilled.
Let's do it.
Well, I like the idea. It's kind of the foot in the door for other locations.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah, that license plate readers, good. And
I think, in this type of situation too, that would give us a lot more ammunition, what's the word?
Ammunition?
Thank you. Ammunition if we needed to go to court, that we have their actual license plate. Because we have found that there is some commercial companies that are just covering up their emblem and still using our center.
Well, we put up a sign, doggone it.
Pretty big sign too
Yeah.
there, Dick.
I've called him on a Saturday. Had the mayor. She's like, I'm gonna call him right now. He picked up while I'm pretty sure he was still there. Sorry. I was like, come on.
Do you like this camera, Chris? Okay.
I'd make the motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 21 mayor and council reports. Not anything right now for me, but I'd love to hear from you.
I'm good.
Okay.
I just had a question. At our last meeting, we allowed an extension until June 20th for the work to get done at Eagles Landing. Do you know if it's done or likely to be done by 3 more days?
Yes.
Yes, you know, or yes, it will be?
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
I had talked to Matt about it last week, and he didn't see any problem, because the D-Day is Friday for the quick trip agreement, so. And the guys are out there working, also removing those trees, because that was part of our seller's agreement as well, so. Nothing, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So, okay,
Good meeting.
that was.
I
Thank
don't-
you,
did that-
Justin,
Yeah, absolutely.
for all the additional,
If I can add in where my expertise actually comes in handy, I will certainly offer it up.
yeah.
Other than that, just tell me to sit down and be quiet.